Okay, this is ISDS 442. This is the prep for midterm 2. And we're just going to go over real quick how to go through and work on some of these problems. These are going to be incredibly similar to the homework that we've already done, but it's going to be combining things that were not necessarily part of the homework, but were things that you learned in other homework and making sure that you still know how to do that. So like literally you've done all of this stuff. It's just a matter of taking a look at what is, it's going to ask you for stuff that's just slightly different. Okay. So the first one we're going to do, you'll have seen this before, is the one about singer and songwriters and all that kind of stuff. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is that it's so much simpler because there's only 3 things that we have to find out. That being said, we're still going to need like an extra column of stuff. And so we'll get to that in just a second. But here's what it's going to look like. So count the number of rows with more. So we want to count if. Okay, and we only have one thing. So we only need to count if singular and not count ifs plural. So we're going to count if. And then let's see if singer is an option here. So singer is an option here. If singer isn't an option for you, then just go ahead and select it. Now I will note again for the count if and stuff like that, for like the numerical ones where it's counting cells that I've included the label here. You usually don't want to include the label range. I would not recommend it. Whenever you do this, try not to include the label range. That's just me. Okay, so I want to count if singer is more, because that's one we want. And we'll close that out. 130. Okay, so in this list, there are 130 instances of the word more. Now we want to count the rows with songs which are shorter than 2 or longer than 2. Okay, so that means we're going to do this row here, which is minutes. And let's see, is minutes? I don't know if it's labeled. Let's see if we grab this one and go down. Is minutes labeled? Yeah, so minutes is labeled. So we're going to go ahead, and it's always a good idea. You can go over to formulas and name manager, and you can see what's on this sheet. You can go refers to, and it'll sort them by sheet. Here we have singer, date, minutes, and years. So years is one that we're going to add here in a minute. It's actually no longer there because see, it says it's in H and it's no longer in H. So we can delete that one because we're going to make a new one for years. Okay, so we need minutes. So we're going to count if minutes. Here's minutes. Again, I've gotten the label. I don't recommend doing the label, but it didn't kill me on this exam, but I wouldn't recommend doing it. It can throw your count off. So we're going to count the number of rows here that are shorter than 2 or longer than 2. The way you do that is less than or greater than 2. Okay, that's how you do either less than 2 or well, less than 2 and greater than 2. That's how you do it. So now we have 753 songs that are either less than 2, shorter than 2 minutes or longer than 2 minutes. Okay, next one. How many times was Spears played from 2017 to 2019? Well, how am I going to do that? You know, what am I going to build out here? So this is where another column for year is going to help me. And you can just use the year function. If you remember from when we were parsing out the dates in some of our homework, year returns the year of a date. That's all it does, is it'll look at this date and it'll give you the year. Well, that's exactly what we want. So we're going to do year, and we're going to have it click here and look at that one. And we're going to close it. See, 2018. Then we just double click here. And now I have a list of just the years. And then I have all those selected. I can make that years. So now I have a range here named years, which gives me just the years that I want to search. So now I can count ifs plural because I want two things. I want if it was Spears, and if it was played in 2017, and if it was played in 2019. Now, one thing you might notice on here that these are all 2018 and 2019. I actually don't think there's any 2017. They're all 2018 and 2019, but it's supposed to work with other types of data. So you have to do it like as if 2017 existed, because he might change the data. Okay. So we got count ifs, and we're going to count ifs singer is Spears, because we want that one, and years is 2017. So that's the first thing we want. And then we also want 2019. The easiest way to do that is to close this off and just hit plus, and then do another count ifs for singer, Spears, years, and this one's 2019. See? So now we've got the number of instances of Spears in 2017 plus the number of instances of Spears in 2019 gives us, oh no value. You know why this doesn't work? Because I have singer in this freaking thing, and this, and because I have, let me go to my name manager here. The reason this doesn't work, and I'm telling you, the reason it doesn't work is if you look at my singer column, it goes from 14 to 965. But if you look at my years, it goes from 15 to 965. They don't match. That's why I'm getting this value issue right here. So if you do this and you're like, oh my God, my formula works perfectly, why isn't this working? It's because on one of them you added the label, and the other one you didn't, and they don't match up, and the program is silly. So we're going to go up here to singer. We're going to edit singer, and we're going to change it to 15. We're going to hit OK, and we're going to close. And now I have the correct number. That's literally it. So believe me, on test day, if you're getting a value sign and you absolutely have no idea why, double check and make sure you either added the labels to both or you didn't add the labels to both, but don't add the label to one and not the other. Okay. They have to be the same range that they're looking at. Okay. And that's it for number one. And that's literally it. That's all of number one. It's all done. Load it up like the instructions, save it, load it up, and then go to the next one, which is going to be, this looks very familiar, you'll notice. Now, this is very, very similar to the homework, except instead of using average if, we're using minimum if. Okay. So we want the minimum of sales, not the average of sales. Now this one, I highly, highly recommend you test it, make sure it works on your computer and that you're going to be using for the test. And if not, update your version of Excel. I screwed up when I took my test, and for some reason I had an older version of Excel. Min ifs did not work, and I could not test whether or not my formulas were working correctly, and I had a bad time. You're gonna have a bad time, okay? So just be aware of this. Double check, make sure that that min ifs, which is, if you go over here, it's gonna equal min ifs. If your min ifs function doesn't show up when you type that in, then you need to update your Excel. Please make sure you do that. Go to the Fullerton website, download Office 365. It'll work like a charm, but please, please, please make sure this works for you before test day. If nothing else, please, please, please check and make sure this works before test day. You're gonna have a bad time. Okay, so let's just X out of that one. Okay, so we need to build a model that populates this table. We have to use table references. with the square brackets, not named ranges. Okay, so we're going to go down here. We need to convert this to a table. Before we convert this to a table, we're going to need another column. See, it says assume the data input might change. It recommends, formulas need to be developed only for 2 cells. The rest is copying. This is true. Highly recommend you fill in this column before you turn it into a table. The reason you're going to need another column is, look, we want minimum number of sales by salesperson and quarter. We need to figure out the quarter. I will tell you this, when I was taking the test, I'm so glad that he lets you look stuff up, because I had absolutely no idea how to look stuff up by quarter. I had to Google it. I literally Googled it on the day. This one was the hardest question. It was so bad. So we're going to have our quarters right here. And if I go into name manager, you can see where I added quarters. And so I'm going to delete that one for now because I'm going to redo it. So we have here, I have sales, which is the dollars column. And then I also have salesperson, which is the name column over here. And it looks like on those, I added the labels. So when I add quarters, I got to make sure I add the label so that they match up. Okay, so I need to extract from this date what quarter it's in. This is a fun adventure. So in order to do this, what you're going to do is use a function called round up. So you're going to round up. So it rounds any number up and away from 0. I'm going to tell you why. Because if we extract the month of the date and divide it by 3, it's going to give us approximately what quarter it is. And if we round up, it's going to give us the correct quarter. So like if this one's in May, we divide that by, we divide the month, which is the 5th month. We're going to divide it by 3. We're going to get, I can't remember, we're going to get some amount, 2 or something like that. And then we're going to round up, it's going to be in a 2nd quarter. Okay. Basically it's going to be like 1 point something. And that means it's in the 2nd quarter, because if it's less than 1, it's going to round it up to 1st quarter. So that's going to be your, January, February, March. And so we're going to round up, and then we're going to extract the month from here. Then before I close this, I want it to extract the month and then divide whatever number it extracted for the month by 3. And that's going to convert that into quarters for me. And then I want 0 digits, which means I want it to be an integer. Okay, I don't want it giving me like extra shit. Okay, boom, 2nd quarter. All right, so round up the month divided by 3, make sure the divided by 3 is inside the comma, and then 0 digits after the period, so you just get the integer. All right, and then we're going to double click this. Boom, all the way down. Notice we only have 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. That's all we've got. We're only going to have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have now created a column where we know the quarters. Make that a calculation cell. Now we can convert this into a table. Shift down, and we'll make it a table. Oops. That's what I wanted to do. Here's the data for your table, and then yes, my table has headers. Yes. Okay, now it's a table. Yay! Okay, now it does say here, time-saving hint, the formulas only need to be developed for 2 cells and the rest is copying. This is true because all of these are going to have very, very similar formulas. So we did one formula that we developed for this first cell here, and then one formula we're going to develop for this first cell over here. The rest is copying, but you have to make sure, because these are table references, make sure that they copy over correctly, because that is a problem that I had. Because my min ifs didn't work on test day, I copied these over and only my first column was correct and the rest of them were incorrect because the table references moved. Okay, So there is a workaround for this that someone was nice enough to send me, and I'm going to show you that workaround. You could also just basically do the first one in each of these top 4 columns and then drag them all down together, because dragging them down doesn't change what column it's in. It's just dragging across that causes the problem. So we are going to start here. And we want the min if, the range, and the table we want it to give us is sales in dollars. So the range is going to be dollars. Is it giving me dollars? Do I have to do the brackets? Can I hit dollars? There we go. Well, table heading dollars. I just want table $1. Bink. So I have a table dollars, and the trick here that they gave me was if I basically make this a range. So I have table $1, range dollars through dollars. And now when I drag it over, this one shouldn't move. Let's find out if that works correctly. So the min ifs, it's going to look in the dollars, and then it's going to look for, I don't want table 1. I want table 1 bracket name, because I want to look for the dollar number that matches Ashley's name. So I want you to look in name. And remember, we're going to do, actually I want double bracket. I want double bracket, name, bracket, colon, bracket, name, close bracket. Okay, so we're going to look in the dollars field, we're going to look in the name field, and we're going to look for this name. And now we're going to want the E column to stay the same, but we're going to want the rows to be able to change. So we're going to put that there. Now, are you being, hold on, close bracket. There we go. Always make sure that lights up, because if it's still black, that means you didn't do it properly. So that usually means you're missing something. There I was missing a close bracket. So now it's lit up, it's highlighted, and so now it's happy. So now it's going to check the dollars column for the row that where this column matches the word that I've given it, which is Ashley. Okay. And then that's the first thing I wanted to find. And then I also want it to look for, I want it to match it up with the quarters as well. So it's the minimum that matches both the name and this number up here. So I'm going to want it to do table table 1, quarters, colon, oops, quarters, bracket, bracket, bracket. Okay, so now it's going to search the quarters column for the quarter that matches this number, and I want it to stay in row 9, but I want the column to be able to move. So I'm going to put a $sign next to the 9. So now it'll stay in that row, but it'll move columns. And the rest of these shouldn't move because I've told it not to move. And then the last thing is we want the minimum sales, but we don't want negative sales, because obviously if she's got a negative sale, because it says excluding returns, so we have to exclude returns. So then the last one is going to be table 1, if I can spell, table 1 bracket dollars. Remember, we need 2 brackets, so bracket, bracket, dollars, bracket, colon, bracket, dollars, bracket, bracket, it's happy, it's turned blue, and I want that to be greater than 0. Okay, and then close it. So this is our formula. I want the minimum of the dollar amount that corresponds with the name that I've given it and corresponds with the quarter that I've given it, provided that that minimum is greater than 0. That's what that means. So I'm gonna hit OK. And apparently her minimum sale was 87 cents. Somewhere in here she sold something for 87 cents. And apparently the lipstick is not terribly expensive because we've got a lipstick right here that's 74 cents. So that's not surprising. Okay. So now that we have that, we can pull this down. And those should all be correct for each one of those people. Because see, if I click on this one, it's checking Zarit against, or Zare against quarter 1. That's correct. Now let's see if our other formula worked properly, and if I drag it across, if it works. Ooh, does it work? Yeah, look at that, it's working. So now we only had to build it out one time, and like he says, the rest is just copying. We copied it over, it's looking in the right spots, it's looking at the right columns, it's looking for Ashley in quarter 2. Go to the next one, is looking for Ashley in quarter 3. That's exactly what I want. Here we got, it's looking for Christina in quarter 3, looking at dollars and quarters and names, just like it's supposed to. And that's it. That's all you need for this one. Okay. So for this one, just remember, you're going to use the min-ifs function. And just remember to, if you don't decide to use these ranges to make your absolute references solid, you're going to have to check. And I would recommend just do the first row, which is just these 4, check and make sure that they're all correct, and then you can pull them down. Don't do the first column and then think that you can pull them across. That's not going to happen. You have to do the first row and then pull down if you're not going to use the table ranges that we're using here. Okay. All right, let's go to the last one. This one will look really familiar. Oops, that is way too old. Okay. Okay. So this is the same thing again. We need to find the number of tellers needed. This is very similar to what we did before. The difference is, for example, the max number of part-timers is greater. This is going to be filled in later, so we'll just delete that. The max number of part-time is a little bit greater, and that's about it. Like where the part-timers work is different. Instead of working, I think the other ones worked from 11 to 2, and these ones work from 10 to 1. So other than that, it's exactly the same as the one you did in your homework. Like this one is not a curveball. This one is exactly the same. You can literally just, if you print your homework with the formulas, you can copy these formulas over. It's literally the same. So we're going to stick in right here is going to equal that. And we're just going to pull that across. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Haha. I'm a dork. I want that one. And then I want that one. Okay. So now we have this one corresponds to 8 to 5. This one corresponds to 9 to 6. This one corresponds with the part-timers. Okay. And then we're going to over here, we're going to have the number of people working. And if you want to, because you can put like as many stuff as you need, you can put like a little thing for you to help you out here. So you remember that the number working has to be greater than or equal to the number of tellers needed. So you can just do that and like copy it down just as a reminder. That's completely up to you. You don't have to do it. It's not like required. But we're going to do the same thing that we did before, which is equal sum product. This, oops, hold on, excuse me, equals some product. Some product is going to equal this. And we want those to be absolute references because those ones don't move. So we're going to hit F4 and F4. And then I want to sum product them with this one, okay? And then close it. And go, and that one goes all the way down. You can make those calculation cells. And so just exactly the same way as we did before. And then our daily salary cost is going to be just like we did before. You're going to have to build it out where it's going to equal the number of people working from 8 to 5 plus the number of people working from 9 to 6, because those are both full-time. We could put those in a bracket, times the amount that we pay full-time people plus the number of people working part-time times the amount of money we pay part-time people. Okay. And then we can have number of tellers needed here if you really want to. We can just do the sum of this range. And that can just be a check. We can do the sum of that range. We can also make it equals the sum of this range. It'll be the same people. Doesn't matter. You don't need to do that one. Okay, so now the trick here is just in the solver equation. That's it. So in the solver equation is going to be exactly the same thing that we did before, okay? So we need to set the minimum. Let's just check over here. We need to minimize the daily cost. So we're going to minimize this square here based on our constraints. Remember, the number of tellers must be an integer. That's telling you that these numbers here have to be, you have to use that integer drop down. And then also this part-time one has to be less than the max number of part-time people. Okay. So we're going to go to data. We're going to go to our solver. Oops. Here's our solver right here. Hopefully you guys can see this. And we're going to set our objective to our daily cost. We want to minimize it. We want to change these cells. Okay. And subject to the constraints that, first of all of these cells need to be greater than or equal to all of these cells. I'm going to add that. We want this cell to be less than or equal to that cell. Oops, hold on. This cell less than or equal to that cell. Okay. And then finally, we're going to add that all of these cells need to be integers. Okay. That's it. That's really it. Everything is non-negative because we can't assign negative people. And we just hit solve. And that's it. We've got an answer. It's all constraints and optimality conditions are satisfied. And it's still here in our solver. Make sure you save it in the solver so that it's saved pink on your sheet. And that is it. That's the whole test. As you can see, the hardest part about this is going to be figuring out how to extract the year over here and figuring out how to do quarters over here. Those are going to be the two most difficult bits. I'm sure it says somewhere in the book how to do quarters. If you want to Google that in the book and see if there's another way that they do quarters, you can certainly do that. I had to Google it. This is the only thing that came up for how to do that. So if there's another way to do it, I don't know what it is, but I'm sure it's in there somewhere. And then this one is just exactly the same as you did on the homework. It's fairly straightforward and fairly simple. And the solver bits are exactly the same. I recommend that you basically print screen or use the snipper tool, which is Windows key Shift S as in Sam. And then you can clip this out as a picture and just print it out so that you have it to refer to. I would recommend doing that so that you just have it right in front of you. Okay, and that's it. I hope this helps.